And now, African Union leaders are meeting this week in Addis Ababa to discuss silencing of arms and creating conditions, according to the AU, for the development of Africa. Many armed conflicts have an impact on the development of a significant number of countries on the continent, it says. And for years, the crisis in Libya and that of the Sahel have constantly come to the fore. In recent weeks, also, there have been numerous deaths in Somalia, and on the DRC side, the massacre of civilians occurring frequently in the eastern part of the country, and the armed forces having trouble dealing with the rebel groups, many rebel groups in that part of the country.
Exactly, Jerry. And as you can see in this graph, it's a non-exhaustive list of countries where weapons are far from silent. Well, we here at Africanews, we are taking the opportunity to analyze and to focus on the countries that are gripped with the armed conflict. And we'll begin today with Cameroon, where reporter Joel Kouam went to meet Cameroonians who have fled the English-speaking regions. And the Cameroonian army there is facing an armed rebellion. Take a look.
For people displaced by conflict in Cameroon's English-speaking regions, life is a daily struggle. For almost 3 years, separatist groups have been fighting for autonomy in the northwest and southwest regions. Violence has had a devastating toll on civilians. In this Douala neighborhood, Kirin and her family have found refuge. Kirin shares this shack with 11 members of her family. When fighting reached her village in the northwest region, she fled with only the clothes she was wearing. Now she has to start all over again. But without a job or a source of income, finding food has been a challenge.
I was well situated in my village, well placed, but because of this crisis, what happened, what I saw in my village, I could not even sleep for the next 2 days. My story is, if you are watching TV every day, you see some 47 guys who were killed and burned in my village in Balinyonga. Those 47 guys, I have my 2 little brothers direct from that same family, from my own family. They were burned and killed. My granddad was killed. It was not easy.
Just a few blocks away is Nadesh Mbonge, a 25-year-old mother of 4. She fled to Douala after 2 of her brothers were killed by fighting.
That gunmen them, they can't enter for inside house. It shows that they follow now different people them. Then come, that way them run past now for our own backside. They pass now, how will they be pass now for our backside? They can't move 2 of my brother. They can't move all we keep it for outside. Shoot our 2 brothers, then where they shoot them, that is destroy them. You will see them so, you know, we've been a thing for really see. They shoot and so you intest and come out. All village, all man be destroyed when they come out for find their own place where they feel go sleep. Even me, the way we are working for come out village.
The conflict has rendered John jobless and hopeless.
Beside my house, there's a toilet there. So I had to manage with my kids and my wife. I'm a father of 4 kids. See this is where I live. My house was burned in Bamenda. So we are here for about 1 year, 6 months now. I'm doing nothing. But I was in Bali. I was a rider, a motorcycle rider. My bike was burned in the house. So I came here with nothing.
The African Union has declared 2020 as the year to stop armed conflict on the continent. For people like Nadesh, that can't come soon enough.
For all this reason, please, I'm begging Mr. Paul Biya to really come and stand firm for us in Bamenda, to look for us and try to solve our own problem. I'm really begging. It's not easy. It's not really going. I'm pleading because I really want to go to my own village, but due to gun, even you don't like gun, nobody don't like gun. The sound of gun is terrible.
A dialogue organized by Yaoundé last year has not stopped the fighting. The United Nations has said both government and rebel soldiers have committed atrocities.
The pathetic story there of internally displaced persons in Cameroon. Now, despite calls to lay down arms and calls for national dialogue, the crisis, the Anglophone crisis in the region hasn't stopped. Well, we contacted political analyst Davaris Nguju, and that's Cameroonian political analyst, and we asked him what he thinks of the recent escalation of crisis in some parts of the continent.
Well, compared to the beginning, there's a change since the state of Cameroon started making security efforts, both in terms of logistics and putting men on the ground. However, I think that we cannot have a total solution to this conflict without being able to implement the recommendations we made at the national dialogue. Basically, there's a problem because some people believe that there's an issue of bad governance. Some people feel that they are taking up arms because they are not recognized or they are seen as second-class citizens in the nation. But if the recommendations are implemented, I think that this can help the situation. But now we have to see the will of the government in Yaoundé, if there is a real will to want to implement this. We are told about decentralization measures, which are not new. Those suggestions have been there more than 20 years, dating back to 1996. So if the African Union wants to decree an Africa without weapons, then we need an Africa with concrete measures for real development. Without doing that, the young people are going to continue to wander around the neighborhoods, to continue to be unemployed. The youth are trying different options, such as creating small income-generating activities, but they are crushed by the weight of taxation. I fear that many will become discouraged and return to this undesirable, violent path. Well, that was political analyst Davaris Nguju. He was speaking to us from Douala in Cameroon.
Many thanks indeed. If you are just joining us, you're watching The Morning Call coming to you live here on Africanews. Please be reminded that we are reaching you live on our website as well. There you can get all the stories that we are bringing to you live on the show and other stories making the headlines across the continent. Please go on www.africanews.com to get all of these stories and much more. Still to come on the program. Visa on arrival for AU citizens as Nigeria eases visa rules to boost trade. Plus, in the world of sports, should AFCON be held every 4 years? According to FIFA President Gianni Infantino, well, Ivorian football legend Didier Drogba thinks so. Details of this plus much more after the break. I was going to say Ruth. Sorry, Bridget and I will be right back.